I had to set up an FPS counter for this test I was doing with Brushify and the Ultra Dynamic Sky and everything. And I have seen a couple tutorials, but none of them really explain why this FPS counter works. So I figured I'd just go over that. So first thing is create a widget blueprint. So user interface widget blueprint. I name it WBP for widget blueprint, and then HUD, because this is basically what I'm using for the entire player HUD. We can open that, and we'll go to the designer, and then you put down a canvas panel, and then text. It's literally just text. So not any of the other crazy ones, not a text box, text. We take this, we make it a variable, name it appropriately, and then down here, the actual text that displayed, you click the link button, and that creates a binding for it. So in our graphs over here, we have this binding, and all this is really doing is saying, okay, collect some information and set this as the text. In this case, we're taking a little bit, it says format, and then we're using the internal variable to this called FPS, and then we're plugging our integer FPS over here. So if you just right click this and promote to a variable, name it FPS, that's fine. So then we have to go over here and actually define what our FPS is. And this is the part where a lot of people will put this together and then they don't explain it. So event tick. So every tick, this is going to do this. And in my case, I have a delay on here for 0.5 seconds. So every half a second, it will update this little chunk of code here. And all we're doing is setting the FPS integer so it can format the text with that integer. So a higher number, so this is in seconds, the slower the update, but the better the performance. So if you don't have this delay, it will literally update FPS every tick, which, if you're running 100 and some odd FPS, that means it's going to be running this 100 and some odd times per second, and that is less performative. So you update this every half a second, 1 second, whatever you want it to be. You could do some other math in here as well if you want later on, but anything less than a tenth of a second, you're kind of losing it because you can't actually catch the FPS that fast anyway. And then set it. And this is the magic right here. And this is what nobody really explains, probably because they're just copycatting this from a bunch of other channels, being like, oh, hey, here's a really easy, 5-minute blueprint for FPS, and that's super high demand, so I'm just gonna copy this video. Delta time means how long it took for this tick. So this is the number of seconds for that frame. So this turns seconds per frame into frames per second. That's why this works. So in order to flop that math, all you do is put it 1 over. This is taking the inverse of that. So the inverse of seconds per frame is frames per second. And then we're truncating it because this is just getting turned into an integer. And then this updates. And every time this updates, it's going to update the binding. And then it updates the FPS here. Oh, yeah, this is the other part. Most people get this part already, but just in case you don't understand how widgets work at all, you need to create the widget, and this basically puts it into memory, but it does not display it. So you create the widget based off of your widget blueprint HUD that we made, and then you add it to your report. That's about all there is to that. I have this set up to play on the standalone, and if you saw my other video, it just showed a bunch of this. Takes a second to get running. And then you can see while it's building shaders, the FPS is a little bit lower. and then it finishes building the shaders and the FPS comes hooked. So, and this is just inside another Pi window, well, a standalone window. The packaged game is going to be 5 to 10 FPS faster in this case. But there you go. You have an FPS counter that, in this case, updates every half a second. So hopefully now you understand how we're going from seconds per frame to frames per second and why we're delaying it and how to set that up, as opposed to just being spoon-fed and having zero explanation as to why this is the way that you're setting up your FPS counter. Good luck, and see you in the next video.